welcome. Tonight, if you've turned off the lights in your room and managed to steal away from the noisy, ambitious hustle of the outside world, we are going to take a short walk through the most uncanny attic in the history of philosophy. I want you to imagine two men. One is living in the mid-17th century, sitting in a small dark home in Amsterdam, grinding optical lenses without a care for the glass dust filling his lungs. He views the universe as a flawless, cold clockwork mechanism. Baruch Spinoza. The other man lives 2 centuries later, navigating the damp, yellow-painted, narrow alleys of St. Petersburg, a genius plagued by epileptic seizures, hunting for the scent of sin and God in the deepest labyrinth of the human soul, Fyodor Dostoevsky. When Dostoevsky gave us Crime and Punishment, he mapped out a landscape of conscience, morality, and redemption. He saw the ache of a soul drifting away from God in every crime. But tonight we will look at those foggy Petersburg streets not through Dostoevsky's candlelight, but through Spinoza's razor-sharp geometric lens. When we look at the bloody X in Raskolnikov's hand, or Svidrigailov's suicide in that empty, filthy hotel room, will we truly see sin and remorse? Or will we witness the mechanical collapse of small, bewildered subjects crushed by the massive, ticking laws of nature? Lean back. Tonight we are rereading the history of anxiety and guilt through philosophy's most immanent ethics. Remember Raskolnikov. A young man sharpened by hunger and pride in his tiny, coffin-like room. He harbors a massive delusion in his mind, the Napoleon theory. He divides humanity into two. The ordinary, those who must obey the law. And the extraordinary, the elite few who possess the right to breach the law, even spill blood for a grander purpose. He wants to test himself. When he kills the old pawnbroker, he is trying to strike an X against his own fears, his own ordinariness. Dostoevsky tells us this is pride. What would Spinoza say? If Spinoza were to walk into Raskolnikov's squalid room and sit at his desk, he would likely look at him with profound pity. Because what Raskolnikov mistakes for power is, in Spinoza's philosophy, the exact opposite. It is pure passivity, a symptom of absolute weakness. Men think themselves free because they are conscious of their actions and ignorant of the causes by which those actions are determined. Spinoza writes this in the Ethics. While Raskolnikov believes he is executing a plan and creating an ideology out of his own free will, he is actually a mere log, tossed around by the storms of Petersburg's poverty, social humiliation, and the inadequate ideas cluttering his mind. The moment he raises that X, he is not at the peak of free will. He is in the darkest bondage of external passions, pride, rage, and ambition. To Spinoza, these do not increase a human being's power to exist. On the contrary, they are sicknesses that cloud the mind and make the individual dependent on the external world. The act of murder is, for Dostoevsky, the violation of a sacred law, the staining of a soul. For Spinoza, it is merely a bad encounter. It is no different from a poisonous mushroom entering our body. While Raskolnikov physically dismantles the pawnbroker's organism with an axe, he unknowingly triggers a mechanism that dismantles his own psychic structure. Nature does not seek revenge. Nature simply imposes its own equilibrium. The delirium, the raging fevers, the flight from humanity that plague Raskolnikov after the crime. Dostoevsky frames this as a torment of conscience cast into man's soul by God. Spinoza gives it a much more clinical term, tristitia. Sadness, or the radical diminishing of one's power to live and act. Raskolnikov does not suffer because he feels guilty. His foolish action has severed his connection to humanity, society, and universal rationality, completely neutralizing his power to act. He recoils from his own mother's embrace because he can no longer generate a harmonious composition. He is a living corpse because his conatus, his striving to preserve and expand his existence, is paralyzed. Now let us look across the room at the uncanny shadow in Raskolnikov's mirror. Arkady Ivanovich Svidrigailov. Svidrigailov comes far closer to the man above the law archetype that Raskolnikov so desperately wanted to embody. He has money. He tore out the human emotion called remorse long ago. Rumor has it he had a hand in his wife's death. He has preyed on young girls. He has turned his life into a pure carnival of pleasure. He gambles, pursues women, and does it all without a shred of guilt. At first glance, he seems to resemble Spinoza's free man, who has transcended transcendent morality, doesn't he? No, absolutely not. Svidrigailov is the greatest monument to existential anxiety Dostoevsky ever presented to humanity. Remember his dreams, his mind. He says to Raskolnikov one day, "We always imagine eternity as something vast and immense. But what if that eternity is nothing but a small room, like a bathhouse in the country, soot-stained, with cockroaches in every corner?" This very sentence is the scream of a soul deprived of what Spinoza calls active joys. Svidrigailov is not free because the source of his actions does not stem from his own reason. He is a slave to external objects, to wealth, to women, and ultimately to his obsessive passion for life. He constantly consumes, and as he consumes, the inner life energy Spinoza calls conatus rots from within instead of growing. In Spinoza's view, if pleasure is not coupled with reason, it becomes a passive wave that blinds a human being. Svidrigailov has consumed so much passive pleasure that the world eventually transforms into that filthy room filled with cockroaches. Boredom is actually the existential paralysis born from the inability of power to evolve, the failure of the mind to produce new rational ideas. And on that final night, On the darkest, rainiest night in Petersburg, inside a drenched hotel room, Svidrigailov awakens from his sleep. He sees the ghosts of the people he killed, the ghost of the little girl whose suicide he caused. For Dostoevsky, this is the return of conscience via phantoms. For Spinoza, it is the complete occupation of the mind by inadequate, sorrowful delusions. Spinoza says something striking in the Ethics. No thing can be destroyed except by an external cause. Suicide occurs when external causes and the sorrowful ideas invading the mind completely suppress a person's inner power, shattering the organism's balance. Svidrigailov goes to her door. He begs for a drop of love, a final hope for a harmonious composition to keep him alive. She pulls a gun and definitively rejects him. At that moment, Svidrigailov's last positive link to the external world snaps. The next morning, standing in front of a cold watchtower before a bewildered sentry, he blows his brains out. He does not do this out of free will. His mental architecture and life force were already reduced to dust by his own passive passions and external defeats. The bullet is merely the physical period at the end of an already expired equation. In the grand finale of Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov is in Siberia. Sonia is by his side. Sonia teaches him redemption through suffering, the Gospels, and surrender. Dostoevsky narrates a story of salvation wrapped in the gentle embrace of Christian mysticism. Raskolnikov falls to his knees before Sonia and finally weeps. But what do we see when we view this finale through Spinoza's lens? What we see is not the washing away of sins. What we see is Raskolnikov finally freeing himself from the false Napoleon delusion, the sorrowful, inadequate ideas that were devouring his mind. Looking out at the vast nature of Siberia, at the flow of the river, Raskolnikov comprehends his true, modest place in the universe. He is not a giant above the law. He is a tiny piece of nature's immense, necessary, and magnificent harmony. This realization is the highest state a human mind can achieve in Spinoza's philosophy. The highest joy of reason, or blessedness, beatitudo. Anxiety, fear, guilt. These are not punishments inflicted upon us by the universe. They are the psychic costs of our ignorance of nature's true laws. They are the price we pay for viewing ourselves in funhouse mirrors, acting like dogs who urinate on a mosque wall when their time has come, unable to rationally weigh our own boundaries. Svidrigailov remained a slave to his passions and vanished in that filthy room. Raskolnikov shattered his delusions, surrendered to the necessary flow of reality, and found freedom. Because, as Spinoza famously said, blessedness is not the reward of virtue, but virtue itself. Tonight, reflect on the false Napoleon constructs in your own mind, the passive pleasures that consume you, and the prisons of regret built on past what-ifs. Perhaps the things you need to be saved from are not your sins, but simply your illusions. The mist of St. Petersburg is clearing. The lens of Amsterdam glimmers on the table, and the clock edges closer to morning. Turn off the lights. Open your mind.